Even as violence persists in Manipur, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has been in the state to assess the situation on the ground. The Union Home Minister has held countless review meetings with Chief Minister Biren Singh, security officials, women and civil society delegations and eminent personalities. Apart from this, Home Minister Amit Shah has also visited Kuki and Meitei relief camps in Kangpokpi and Imphal. The Home Minister's outreach in Manipur has yielded assurances of a CBI probe, establishment of a peace committee and compensation of ₹10 lakh to the families of victims of the violence there. Meanwhile, as we appeal for arson and violence to stop, we ask what's needed for peace in Manipur. Joining us on the show to talk more about this is Major General A.K. Sawaj, former head of Territorial Army and geostrategic and defense expert. Also joining us on the show is Major General Sudhakar Ji, VSM veteran, geopolitical expert. Last but by no means the least, Mr. Sandeep Chatra, human rights defender, is also with us on the program. Mr. Chatra, I'd like to begin with you. While we've been seeing this violence, we have seen the instability in Manipur. The opposition, of course, attacking the current government for, delayed visits is something of a different ecosystem that we should not get into. But the fact of the matter is that what began on the 6th of May as a peaceful demonstration turned out into, this fortnight of violence and other menace. How do you think this volatility in Manipur can be resolved?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, and greetings to your viewers. First of all, given the situation now, I think of the first importance is the question of social and political dialogues. There's massive distrust, mistrust, rumors, perceptions. So all these are at play. Many have lost lives. Thousands are in camps. So in this context, it's important to have social and political dialogues, which I see now happening with the Union Home Minister leading the delegation and talking to a broad range of stakeholders, civil society formations, both Meitei, Kukis and others, students, other stakeholders. So these are indeed welcome steps. And I think in this regard, the message for disarming is also very, very important. Having said that, foremost now and of utter urgency now is the question of quality humanitarian support. We know many have lost livelihoods, many have lost survivors, families whose family members have lost lives. Their shops are burnt, their houses are burnt, they're living outside in camps. So first and foremost at this stage, at this point in time, the urgent need is of quality humanitarian support. Food aid, medical support, medical treatment, water and sanitation facilities for those living in camps. I noticed you said compensation has been announced. I think it's ex gratia. I think the important thing is compensating for loss of livelihoods in particular, loss of houses in particular, rebuilding houses, rebuilding those shops is a duty of care of the society and the state. Equally important, Vinitji, is this whole question of the schools are closed. Schools have been closed for a long time. Very few schools are open. There have been learning losses for children. So it's of utter urgency to ensure safety and reopening of schools. The question of mixed cities, you see both in areas, foothills in particular, where there are mixed communities, safety of those communities, safety of, security of those communities needs to be ensured. And particularly towns where there are mixed populations, the border town of Moray itself, where the Honorable Home Minister also visited. So it's important to ensure safety is there. This whole question of, the violence was spurred with some evictions of the Kuki families from the forest areas. I think aside from the facts to it, aside from the contested facts, whether these were forest lands or whether under Article 371C, these are autonomous hill tracts and so therefore they are Kuki lands, a moratorium on evictions at this moment is very, very important. I also think that, this whole question of ensuring justice to the survivors, stable peace cannot be without the foundations of justice. So therefore, to ensure justice to the survivors, justice for what has happened is also equally important. In my opinion, future advances to peace, we need, because you asked this question, can be built basis status quo. There are many contested realities, many contested claims, and at the center of all these is the question of tribal status and the land question. So I think aside from the fact that ethnicities, identities, also religious identities are an ever-evolving phenomenon, and this is more so amongst tribal communities in the Northeast or amongst even Meiteis in the Northeast. And these obviously in the evolving context will need future dialogues, not now, but future dialogues in terms of how these have evolved, how these have changed, and what could be the new status. So aside from that, that's a long-term issue. Those dialogues must happen. They must be encouraged because these are dynamic identities. But having said that, at this moment, the identities as of now must be respected. And in the light of the question of status quo that I was speaking about, see, there is no data at this moment, Vinayji, and there are obviously different views to it. But at this moment, there's no data to say that Meiteis have become any worse off or Kukis have become any worse off. The last census didn't say so. We haven't had a caste census or an ethnic census currently to have any evidence for a call for change of status quo. And therefore, any attempts to change status quo must be restrained for now as dialogue goes on. Any attempts to seek newer reservations or on the other side to seek de-reservations or any new claims as peace-building dialogues proceed at this moment should be sort of withheld and in status quo. And these could be medium and long-term discussions and debates. Same as the question of land. So this whole question of land is also a very vexed issue. You see, Meiteis live in about 10 to, if you allow me a couple of minutes, or may I come in later?
Please go ahead, Mr. Chatra. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So you see, Meiteis live in about 10 to 15% of valley land, which is fertile. Their populations have also grown. So there are genuine expectations that they could acquire more land, or it is there. Similarly, Kukis who've been living in hill tracts along with Nagas and other tribal groups, these are not just the three communities in Manipur in any instance, also have populations grown, both in situ growth as well as in migration growth. And also added to the fact is, given the look east policy and the construction of east-west highway, you have land speculations happening in the hill tracts. So I think this whole issue of whose land it is, whether it could be one nation, one land, whether it could be one state, one land, is also a very debatable, vexed issue. And I think these at this moment must not be at the center stage. Perceptions, rumors must not be given the space that they have in the past month seen in order for peace building, reconciliation, resolution, conflict resolution to happen. These are dialogues which must be held in a very stable, secure manner in future. Thank you, Vinny.
Absolutely. General Sudhakarji, great points by you, Mr. Chatra. Obviously, you've put things in perspective as well and what the tug of war really is. General Sudhakarji, from what we know, between these two communities, the Meitei and of course the Kuki, but the fact of the matter is that, we need to ask ourselves, is this something that could have been avoided? Or do you think that, since a very long time, certain events did transpire in the last few years, which were perhaps, considered an oversight, and that is the reason why we are sitting on this big problem today?
Vineet, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to your show. Compliments to the previous co-panelist and my very best wishes to the General Shivaj and the viewers. As regards the question which you are asking, the straight answer is yes. I think the leadership in the hierarchy, to be very candid with you, we missed some indications. We call it in military science application the battle indication, but unfortunately we cannot use that template. But definitely a proactive kind of a stance or profile by all accountable agencies responsible for effective and stable administration. I think they missed some indications at some point in time. Otherwise, for past 8-9 years, there has been peace and normalcy and tranquility. There is no question as to why and how this incident or event would have abruptly, erupted. So that is one part. Secondly, if you allow me, Vinay, I have a perspective without meaning to contradict, because I feel the intelligentsia in our country, perhaps we are missing some aspects which should rightfully be factored into our thought process and analysis. One of the aspects is that the Myanmar's, once upon a time is to be called as Burma, was an integral part of India under the undivided British India Empire. At that point in time, what I'm trying to highlight is, keeping in view the time that is available for the session, is that when we talk about the tribes, there is a coherence of the tribes in Myanmar as also in Manipur. When we talk about the Kukis and Meitei in Manipur, we also have significant percentage or number of Kukis and Meitei who are living in Myanmar. And surprisingly, neither the media, the print, nor the electronic media is highlighting one aspect, that this Meitei and Kukis who are presently in Myanmar, there is an ongoing conflict between the two groups. Also, it has been learned that the two groups, in some form or the other, they have been supporting the military junta. Why am I highlighting is that till such time the democracy was prevailing, till 1st January or 31st of January 2021, everything was hunky-dory, was stable and normal things were reported. Ever since the military junta has come back to power, between these two groups or communities, one of the group is supporting the military junta to strike the other group as a militant or a target objective inside Myanmar. When a thing like this takes place, then there is a graduated, incremental, as also mass-scale exodus or migration of these people into Manipur, which has got a direct bearing on the demographic content as also the behavioral matrix and subsequent socio-economic ramifications, particularly what Mr. Sandeep was trying to bring out, that in the lower and the upper reaches of the hill segment, you have poppy cultivation. This year particularly, there has been a huge bumper crop of poppy cultivation, both in Myanmar as also to the southern portions of the Manipur hill segment. So therefore, what it brings to me to the point is that the narco-terrorism in some form is always prevalent. And number two, there was a kind of a discontentment which was simmering from Myanmar since past 1.5 to 2 years. Number three, whatever incident or events are unfolding gradually because of the repressive regime of the military junta in Myanmar, it has got a direct and indirect impact this side of the border. And third and most important point is the internal factors. When I talk about the internal factors, yes, they have had number of such kind of frictions in the past, but this has been something very unusual, where the armories, which have been actually stored, locked and sealed for past several years, ever since the ceasefire has been brought into effect, they have been looted. And in large number, almost 1,000 or more than 1,000 weapons have been looted from one of the armories of the India Reserve Battalion, so as the Manipur police. And I am also told that the Kukis have been involved in this, and the trigger of the entire incident, assuming that it was the High Court order, why did the government in place or in position fail to foresee the sensitivity of the implementation of the court order? Now these are the questions which are coming up. So therefore, the lesson that we should take home is, apart from what the Honorable Home Minister has already given directions, they are very, very notable, very, very noble and very effective directions. But in addition to that, I think there is a requirement for the institutional mechanism which is existing on ground to be proactive and to anticipate such kind of events so that they can be prevented in future and the mayhem and the bloodshed which has taken place doesn't take place in future. Back to you, Vinay.
Absolutely. Great points there. General Sivaj, do you think that something like this can actually be predicted? There has been a peace committee that has been formed, but the fact of the matter is that there is only so much that security agencies can do when so many people, disgruntled people, are involved.
Yeah, very correct. Vineet, if you try to understand what was the basic problem, everyone knows it. See, someone gain is someone lost. There are three main tribes which are there: Meitei, Kuki, and Naga. Meitei are about 53%, but they are holding on almost 10 to 12% land, and Kukis and Nagas are 40%, and there are other tribes which are on the hills. Now, the point what has happened is that the judgment which was given by High Court, that the recommendation must be given by the state government to the central government to give a Meitei a scheduled tribe status. This was one of the trigger which started this one, and the second was at the same time those Kukis villages which were there in the reserve forest area, they were also moved. So they were seen as a club together, and incident thereafter occurred, possibly was not anticipated by the government of the day and the police force, and to some extent there is also allegation, was no neutrality, that certain higher-ups have also taken the side of a particular group, and that is where the situation went out of control. The point I fully agree on: one, could we have anticipated this thing? We should have. And second thing, should we have allowed the situation to go to such an extent that there are almost about 70 to 80 people killed and more than 50,000 people are displaced? Now, all this was anticipation, should have been done. And at the same time, the people who were holding the power, they should have acted more neutral, and also they should have acted with more maturity. That has not happened. And that's why all these actions are taken by Home Minister are indicating this. One is that a peace committee will be made under governor. Then it says also that it will be a unified command. Why we are asking for unified command is made? Remember, the unified command, the first thing we started off was from Assam. Incidentally, I was commanding a battalion that time, and General Sudhakarji used to be one of a very key staff officer in that brigade. So that time it succeeded. Now they have brought here, it went to Jammu and Kashmir, now came. Unified command will take care of it, because all the input will come to one person and then the action will be taken. And then also what has been done, the DGP of the police has changed, Mr. Rajiv Kumar, who is from Tripura cadre, now the IG in CRPF have brought in, so that the face is neutral and yet he is mature and he understands what is the actual problem of Manipur. He has got experience behind it. Then the CBI inquiry is to be done for the 6 instances which have taken place, why they have taken place, why the violence is there, who was involved. And the next point is, how come an armory has been ransacked and looted? Of course, the people who have, those who were control of this armory, they also got involved, and they are also, it looks like that they are party to it. But certainly this is a cause of concern, because the Manipur is a state which is a border state with Myanmar, and the China was involved in the militancy there, and there is an agreement called Sioux agreement with the militants that the violence will not be there. However, with so many weapons gone in the hands of the civilian as well as the going to militant, is a cause of concern. And that is the biggest problem. That's why the Home Minister has announced, and of course the civil authority, that these weapons must come back. There are about 2,000 weapons which have now gone out, and they are all very automatic weapon, AK-47, M16 now. So that is again cause of concern. So overall, what is it looking at? Yes, we failed to anticipate the situation, and the thing deteriorated, and neutrality was lacking. And however, at present, kindly take the action. Let all communities will feel secure, and let them be given a confidence that the civil authority is with you, the army is with you, the top hierarchy with you. I think that is very important. Relief and rehabilitation package has been already announced by Home Minister, which is a good sign. 10 lakhs will be given to those who have been killed. Also, certain other issues which have been told, the helicopter service will be there, the train service will be made, the cargo will come, people will get all facility. I suppose that is a requirement of day. But what it needs to be done is, the problem is not resolved. The problem is still there. So therefore, the point is that whatever is the problem, someone has to sit down, and the distrust which has now occurred between this community is a cause of concern. Remember, this is a hill state. These people have to stay together. If there is a mistrust and distrust, this is not going to be good for the country, and also it will be made good by the Chinese and the militant. So we have to go a long way. But whatever points which have been now, or action plan which has been made by Home Minister, I think it is a step in the right direction. It must be done honestly, in a right spirit, so that the peace comes back, and then try to find out the solution, so that no one feel that he has lost out at the cost of some other tribe. I suppose that is the key word we need.
All right, we are almost out of time as well. Mr. Chachra, concluding thoughts from you. And what do you think of the resolution and the trajectory that the Home Minister has lined out for Manipur? You know, we obviously don't expect something like this to happen again, but the fact of the matter is that unless these ground issues these granular issues are resolved and brought to light and some sort of conclusion, things will be volatile.
I'd like to reflect on, basis your question, I'd like to reflect on 4 specific trajectories, which I think are very important from my perspective, from the ground perspective. Worked there in the past, we continue to work there for peace building, for humanitarian relief. I think a quality, as I said, a quality humanitarian response without any favoritism to any community, but equal to all communities, is a great confidence builder. So that's my first point. And I think that is the first step, an urgent step that needs to be taken. I want to go beyond the proposals of compensation being made. It involves a lot more, as I was saying, this whole question of rebuilding homes, rebuilding livelihoods, rebuilding shops and businesses destroyed. That is urgent. The question of justice is urgent for those who suffered injustice in this past month. I think that is a great confidence builder. That's a great step to take forward. Point number 2, I also think social dialogues, interfaith, intercommunity dialogues, interfaith dialogues, both these are at play there. The ethnicities and religion need to be promoted socially, politically, and I think that's an important step to take forward from the civil society, the civic society, the citizens groups, the academic groups, and so on and so forth. So that's my second trajectory or reflection going forward. Injustices of Myanmar, as was pointed out, of course, play out here. We have seen since the military junta has taken over, a large exodus from Myanmar for various reasons. So I think the issue to be spoken to, or to be spoken by us socially and politically, is this question of democratization, on moving to civic rule or civil rule in Myanmar. It's important. I worked in Myanmar. I think it's really compelling question in the Asian sphere right now. My fourth point is with reference to the vexed issues of tribal status and the vexed issue of land and land control. And I think for that, an evidence-based response, an evidence-based resolution is important, not to go by perception, not only to go by past. I'm not sure if the injustices of past have completely been corrected, on which was based this whole question of reservations for tribals. One needs to look into evidence and data. One needs to sort of hold that as a medium-term resolution. To engage it now would surely give rise to a lot of perceptions, a lot of contesting claims. So that needs to be looked into, resolved in the medium to the long term. So these are the 4 pathways, I think, which would be important going ahead from now. Thank you, Vinitji.
All right, great points there, as always, Mr. Chachra. General Sudhakarji.
Vinit, the central issue is to identify the problem. The problem, to my understanding, is that the Kukis at some point in time have felt extremely insecure, and they felt intimidated by virtue of a bigger pie of the share of the entitlement going towards Meitei, consequent to declaration or announcement of the judgment. This is my first start point. If that be so, what are the insecurities of the Kukis? The insecurity of the Kukis is basically the entitlement of the hill tribe being part and component of the scheduled tribe list. So what are these? I'm just taking an example of Nagaland, which is an adjoining state. If I'm not wrong, because I have served there quite a long time, and to the best of my knowledge and memory, I remember 99.9% of the people of Nagaland are included as part of the scheduled tribe list. Therefore, each and every one, majority of them, are entitled to all the benefits they get. So where is the harm in considering whether it is Meitei or Kukis? Take them, give them the equal share. The equality has to be ensured. This is one part. This can come about effectively, Vinit, if we have the constitutional provisions and the obligations fulfilled by the method of legislation. This is one point. Second point is our border. Manipur has got a border of 400, roughly around 400 kilometers with Myanmar. Between both the countries, we have a sense of understanding, historical understanding, traditional practices. Again, if I'm not wrong, 16 kilometers toward their side, 16 kilometers to our side. This is called a free zone. People of Myanmar, they can come into India. Indian people can go across to Myanmar for a distance of 32 kilometers. The time has come wherein we need to enforce some degree of surveillance. Assam rifle is deployed along the border. Let some system, some effective measure to have accountability of these people coming from across Myanmar into our country so as to have the census right. Secondly, monitor the activities and ensure accountability that after a certain period of time, they go back to the parent country. Third and most important point is the narco-terrorism is spreading like hell there in Manipur. We need to be mindful that about a year and a half back, one of our very, very bold and brave officers, Colonel Tripathi, his wife and child, they were killed somewhere in the thick and thin of Mizoram, between Mizoram and Manipur. He was the Assam Rifles CO. He had gone on a visit. When he came back, it was merely because he had come down very heavily on the narcotic trade cartel. He had been threatened by these people that you stop all this, otherwise we'll take care of you. Last point I have is that the peace and tranquility in a state like Manipur, given the fact that it has turned into it is a kind of an epicenter of our sporting activities, the sporting activities of India. People are going there to take training from noted personalities for greater events, global events, and regional events. All I am saying is that the time has come that we need to factor in the effectiveness of the women organization in Manipur.
Right, sir. We've run out of time. General Sivach, 10 seconds to you, sir. Quickly, please. We have some breaking news coming in. General Sivach?
Vinit, one thing is very clear that, the problem which is as on today existing, what General Sudhakarji was trying to convey, that why can't scheduled tribe status can be given to even to Meitei. The problem which is there in Manipur is slightly different, because in Kitty there is a limited resource. So this point has to be taken into consideration, and all stakeholders have to sit down and then work out a situation. How do we make sure that distrust between the communities do not stay? Everyone gets its share, and in case extra share can be given by the central government. The next point, which is very important, is the drug terrorism. Drug terrorism is coming not only in Manipur, it is also spreading in Nagaland, Tripura and Mizoram. Mizoram is otherwise a peaceful state, but drugs are coming in a big way in all these states coming from Myanmar. It is a cause of concern. We should be careful. Vinny.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Chatra, General Sudhakarji and General Sivach, for joining us and giving us your unique perspective on this important and contingent situation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.